Spread them out by all means. All right, Rabbi Isai, here we are. We are going to start with the Siyum on Masechta Midos in light of the fact that the Rebbe said to continue doing Siyum until the 15th of Av. Also, not of the fact that it's the season to learn about the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, so the last mission of Masechta Midos goes as follows: Shebedarim, we're listing the rooms that are in the southern section of the Azor. Although the Tosis Yom Tov says that according to the Gemara, some say it should say Shabbat Safan, that these were in the north. Lishkas Ha'etz, there was the room of wood. Lishkas HaGoyla, there was the room of the Goyla. The Gemara is going to explain in a minute what all these things were. Lishkas HaGazis, and it was also the Lishkas HaGazis, the chamber of hewn stone, which is for the Sanhedrin. Lishkas Ha'etz, what was the Lishkas Ha'etz? Amar Yaakov says, Shachachti ma'hoisa meshameshes. I forgot what it was used for. Abba Sholeimer. Rabbi Yaakov, by the way, was the author of Masechta Midos, which is why his forgetting is relevant. Anybody else would forget. We don't exactly. He wouldn't mention it, but because he's speaking the whole time, he said, "I forgot." Sorry, Rebbe, when he put together the Mishnayos, he took written things that were written before and he edited them. So this Mishnah had been written by Rabbi ben Yaakov. This Masechta had been authored by Rabbi ben Yaakov. Edited by Rebbe, but nevertheless he collected Rabbi ben Yaakov's writings for this Masechta. Abba Shol says, Lishkas Kohen Gadol. The Lishkas Ha'etz was actually the room of the Kohen Gadol. Rebbe explains that it was actually made of wood, which is why it's called Eitz. But you're not allowed to build wood in the Azar of the Beis HaMikdash, so it was covered with stone, presumably. And the wood represented the Kohen Gadol, who's Tzaddik Katama Yifrach, who represents long life, which is the whole idea of wood, the opposite of something that grows, something that continues. Like the Kohen Gadol, it says that he is supposed to bring long life to people, as opposed to the person who went to the Ir Miklat, who brought death to people. So the Kohen Gadol is associated with long life. Elsewhere, it says that the Kohen, that this room was called the Lishkas Parhedron, which means that it was like an office that the Greeks had in their government that would switch every 12 months. That's because in the second Beis HaMikdash, they had Kohanim Gedolim who were not Tzaddikim, and they would pass away, and every 12 months was a new Kohen Gadol. So, in fact, the Rebbe's father explains that Lishkas Ha'etz is what they called it in the first Beis HaMikdash, because they were Tzaddikim. And in the second Beis HaMikdash, they called it Lishkas Parhedron because they were not such Tzaddikim, and that's when they were switching off. But in fact, the Rebbe turns around the Parhedron into a positive thing, because in the time of the second Beis HaMikdash, there were also many Tzaddikim. The Gemara says there were a certain Rabbi Shmuel, there was Rabbi Yochanan Kohen Gadol, there was different kind of in the beginning of Shimon HaTzadik. So why would you call it by that name, even for the Tzaddikim? So the idea is that every 12 months there was somebody new, even if there were Tzaddikim, because the whole avodah of Yom Kippur is the avodah of tshuva, and even a tzaddik is supposed to do tshuva, especially on Yom Kippur, and he becomes like a new person. So they actually changed every year. So, and even though every 12 months. No. They borrowed the term from the Greeks who used to change it every 12 months. The Greeks said, I don't know if they have a leap year. They just borrowed the term. Kohen would be once a year. I mean, depending on the Kohen, but whatever. But the point is that in the first Beis HaMikdash, when it was mostly tzaddikim, they didn't focus so much on the tshuva, even though they had tshuva then too. But the second Beis HaMikdash, when they were attacking needing the tshuva, so that's when they focused on it, and even the tzaddikim came to it. Anyway, this room was behind both of them. In other words, towards the Azor was the Goyla and the Gazis, and this room when the Kohen Gadol would stay before Yom Kippur for 7 days, it would stay separated from everybody else, so it wouldn't become Tameh. That was behind those other two. The Gag Shlosh Shava, and they had one roof that covered all these three. So it was like one roof area, 3 rooms underneath, Lishkasa Eitz behind towards the outside, and then Lishkasa Gazas and Lishkasa Goy. I'm sorry? Yeah, he lived there. That was his quarters for 7 days before Yom Kippur. The Gag Shlosh Shava, there was we said that. Lishkasa Goyla, Shama Yabur Kavua Galgal Nasan Alav. It's called Goyla Meloshan Galgal wheel, because there was a well with a wheel that used to turn to bring up the water. They would provide water for the whole Azar from there. Lishkas Hagazis, then there's the Lishka of Yun Stone, Sham, Hoisa Sanhedrin, Gedoylish Yisrael Shabbos, Adonasakona. That's where the Sanhedrin Hagadol of the Jewish people would sit and judge the Kohen. Kohen, so by Psul, the Kohen was found to be Pasal Levish Chaim Sat of Shchayim. He would wear black, cover himself with black, Israel would leave. If there was no psul found in the Kohen. This is, by the way,
not the first like this, it used to be covered, like, or it's been like actually to the back. I think it was on covered, so they weren't going to do it, they took it overnight, no? Like it's going around like in the cable. So the covering gets called the, no?
Near Shanikas is the God Hashem Magalgal. Shaboy Mishash Lemakir Kadesh Leipasa Belina. Yeah, but it's they would lower it. They would lower it into the ground so it would remain connected and wouldn't become Pasalina, correct? Right. But Goyla doesn't mean cover. Goyla means a chain that they used to lower with. What he says. No problem. I think somebody says it's Melashon Golos, that it was built by the Bnei HaGoyla. Hashem Habar Shechofru Shom Bnei HaGoyla, the people who came from Bavel dug it. Yeah? It was donated. You know how they have in shuls, donated by this, donated by that. It was donated by the Bnei HaGoyla. Anyway, so this is only, by the way, when the Kohen started his Avodah. The first day he came to serve, they would judge him, and if they found him good, that was it. He didn't have to be judged again. If he was not found to be possible, he would put on white clothes, cover himself with white. That's the big day Kohana, basically. When he would go in and wear and serve with his brother. And the Sanhedrin were so happy that they found the Kohen to be kosher and not disqualified, they would make a yontif. They would say, Baruch Hashem, that no disqualification was found in the seed of Aaron. Baruch Hashem, that chose Aaron and his sons to stand and serve in front of Hashem in the house of the Kodshei HaKadoshim. Nishlama Masechta Midos. Thank you. Please pass around. Shako. I don't think so. I think it's a significant change. I actually learned it with my son, my Midos, with my 11-year-old. He couldn't join the Siyum, but I'm having him in mind too.
He's still in Montreal?
Well, he came back, that's why I'm learning with him. I got this bottle. I got this bottle from a friend of mine for one of my birthdays. No, it wasn't this. It was Macallan. It was Macallan.
Family vodka.
I went to Swisher today in Total Wines. I got 3 vodkas and 2 wines for 1 scotch. It's a good deal.
Oh, from a con?
Yeah.
Did you switch it because it's made in sherry cask?
Exactly.
Macallans are usually a no-go because it's sherry finish, not a sherry cask.
Sherry what?
Sherry finish. Almost all whiskies use sherry casks, but Macallan uses a sherry finish, which means they don't. They leave it whole with some sherry at the bottom, rather than using the cask and then firing it out.
That I didn't even know. Amen.
A lot of whiskies use sherry casks, including ones that you're likely to drink.
Like what?
Almost everything. I think maybe one of the Johnny Walker Blacks or Double Blacks or something like that. One of them does. But the difference with Macallan is that it uses a cask with some sherry at the bottom.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
There's a difference between sherry cask and sherry finish.
Okay. Good to know. I got to pay more attention.
And you brought that, was it cherry wine? No, what was that wine that you brought?
Oh, yeah. That was plum wine.
Plum wine. You had to get it out of the house.
That's right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'ha'yu b'chiyatz. Amen. Yoram, you didn't choose a good night to miss the shear.
Yeah, I thought he said he was going to go down in a dress or something.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol yom dorei.
Didn't he say he was going to go to bread club and everyone should come?
Chaim. Should have the Siyum of the Golas. Chaim.
They would need the amendment 745.
All right. Here we go, my friends. You all have the handout from yesterday?
Yeah.
Excellent.
You have to go on the air.
Oh, I never went on the air? I did. I'm on the air. I should be on the air. All right, here we go.
Rabbi, can you hear me?
I can hear you barely. Sounds like you're talking through a pillow. All right. So we're learning about Shira and HaTorah, 2 of the Malachos in the Mishkan, tying and untying knots. Where do they have tying and untying in the Mishkan? Hunting the chilazon. Hunting the chilazon. The nets for the chilazon. They would tie it to make the nets, and if they needed to adjust it, the size, whatever, they would have to untie it. The curtains. I don't know if they had to tie for the curtains.
It wasn't an educated guess.
Well, more hooks.
Yeah, there were hooks. Yeah.
Hooks are hooks, and that's
They're
not a
loops.
tie. They're loops. That's not a tie. I don't know if they had to make any knots for the. Not that I can think of. I don't know. Okay.
Where did they get the when they were in the
What's that?
desert? Just out of curiosity.
They are native to the Mediterranean Ocean. So they sent some people up north, a little bit, not too far north from where they were, and they trapped some chilazon, whatever that is. The Rebbe Rashab said that since the Arizal says it's connected to Mashiach, so that's it. Story finished, pretty much. He said it in relevance to certain things, not in relevance to everything, you know what I'm saying? So, point is that Min Torah, in order to be chayev for a knot, there is either one condition or two conditions, depending on which of the Rishonim you hold by. If you hold like the Rambam and the Rif, there are two conditions. What are they?
It's not permanent.
No, I'm talking about for it to be Minatayr, for it to be yes Minatayr. That it has to be permanent, that's one. Everybody agrees to that one, actually. I didn't hear you. Uman, exactly. Kesher Uman. It has to be a professional knot. That is the pin of the Rambam and the Rif.
So the woman is common with this, and so the first one
Rashi and the Rosh. Rashi and the Rosh holds only of Kesher Shel Kayama. Does not have to be Shel Uman.
So what is the plug between Kesher and Kayama between the 1 day and 7 days?
That's a separate question, but that's all a question of Midrabana. That's not a question of Midaraisa. In other words, when we say that a Kesher that is not Shel Kayama is As Midrabana, but it has to have some permanence. How much permanence does it have to have? Maybe 7 days, maybe 1 day. That's a machlokes.
So which one until will be 7 days?
I think the Trumas Hadashin holds 7 days. I think so. I don't remember all one. I don't remember.
But we holding it 1 day.
Lahachmer. We're going to see that maybe you can rely on 7 days in some cases, but we're machmer with 1 day. The Kitzer, the Gemara mentions certain knots that are Midairaisa. For example, Kesher HaGamolim, the knots of the camel drivers. So they used to put a knot onto the nose of the camel. There was a loop that stayed there forever, pretty much. And then when you wanted to tie the camel to a post or to another camel or to whatever, you would loop another rope through that loop. So that knot would stay forever.
Wait.
What?
Was it ring?
That was a ring.
No.
It was rope.
Like was it rope?
Could be a rope.
So what is it? Why did it tie around his mouth?
No, through his nose. Yeah.
That's just like kind of the nesm to the
No. Could be a Nezem also. The point is, the same.
Which one is the kind, like the one that
The permanent one is the one that stays there, the loop, the first loop. And then another example is Kesher Hasapan. You have a ship, whether a small ship like a sailboat or even a big one, and you have to tie it to the dock. So you have one loop that goes to something that's in the front of the stern, exactly. And then to that loop, you attach another rope through that loop, which ties to the dock. So that loop pretty much stays there. And another example is the kesher of a sandal. Sandals. So the Rambam and the Rif understand that the reason the Gemara gives these examples is because they're made professionally, and they're also permanent. The Rosh and the Rif say, the Rosh and Rashi say, no, the whole purpose of saying these examples is because they're permanent. It has nothing to do with the fact that they are professional. Yeah, but you don't tie that one loop. The first loop you leave there, and you untie the rope that you understand, just like the camel. The camel has that one loop. You pull it by something attached to it. Same thing.
The loop that already connected to piece of wood on the dock, not the rope that connected in between.
Correct. That's correct. So that is the machlokes. Now, according to the Rambam, even though the Rambam seems like a kula, because according to the Rambam, if a person makes a permanent permanent knot that is not professional, he's off the hook. He doesn't get skila, doesn't get koris, doesn't bring a chatas. Seems like a leniency. On the other hand, you have a chumrah according to the Rambam, insofar as if it is a professional knot, it's us or even it's temporary. Because these are the two conditions to make it d'oraisa. If either of the conditions are fulfilled, even without the other, it's also d'rabbanan. So permanent without professional is Darabanan according to the Rambam, according to the Rosh Hashanah. But professional without permanence is also, according to the Rambam, even if it's mamish not permanent, even if you're planning, even if you're planning to take it off on the same day. That is very relevant to us, because even though most of us don't know how to go make professional knots b'chlal, unless you go to the Boy Scouts, but there is a chiddush said by the Shiltei Gebarim, I believe it is, that since we don't know exactly what is the definition of a professional knot, any knot that is tight, we should be strict and consider professional. And therefore we come up with a chiddush that you should not tie a double knot on your shoelaces. As simple as that knot seems, because it's a strong knot, maybe it's considered professional. And therefore, even though you take off your shoes maybe 5-10 times a day, makes no difference. Temporary it might be, but it might also be professional. So therefore, you cannot tie or untie such a knot.
What kind of a view was that to follow?
So,
or is that some folks can say that?
So the Machaber passes like the Rambam. So passes like the Rambam. Wait. Passes like the Rambam. So if it's professional and temporary, it's definitely also according to Machaber. But he does not mention the Shiltei Gebarim.
We don't know what professional.
Exactly. And that even a tight knot, any tight knot, you have to be strict on it. Doesn't mention it. The Rambam does, because the Rambam says you have to be strict like Rambam and Rosh. But Lamaisa, he's the one that mentions it. So it's not clear if the Machaber holds of it or not. He brings it down to the Beis Yosef. He doesn't bring it down to the Shulchan Aruch. And the Yalkut Yosef says that the Chidah says that the minhag is not like the Shiltei Gebarim. So
You know it's a professional line.
that's the psak of the Chidah. And the Yalkut Yosef says that's the main halacha. Ritzel hachmer tavel bracha. But the others, I mean, the Ashkenazi poskim, based on the Ramah, do paskin like the Shiltei Gebarim. Alter Rebbe, the Mishnah Berurah, and so on, paskin like the Shiltei Gebarim. However,
None of them. You have to be.
so even though it's not a chumrah, even though it is a chumrah, but because it's kind of a double chumrah, because you have to bear in mind that it's for sure only a Rabbanan, and it's maybe a Rabbanan, maybe not, because it's only maybe, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's professional, maybe not. So the Alter Rebbe writes that in a Makam Tsar, you're allowed to be Mekel. In a Makam Tsar, you're allowed to be Mekel. A very simple example would be if you tied your shoes with a double knot, a mistake, whether before Shabbos or on Shabbos, and you can't get them off without untying them, and you wanna go to sleep. That's a pretty sour situation to sleep with your shoes on. So you'd be allowed to untie them. You mean as far as what's considered sour? Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Okay.
What if a person's shoes are shoelaces are on and off? They just untie the laces don't touch. Tie shoes every so often. 5 times.
It reminds me of a shah that asked Behela once. Reminds me of a shah that asked Behela once, or Behela from Garden Heights. He doesn't mince his words. He holds that a mezuzah that's not placed in the doorway, you may as well put it in your drawer. And I'm saying sometimes they put it on the outside, on the inside, like on the wall, not on the doorway. He holds that that's nothing. So I asked him once, I have this doorway that it's very, very tight. I can't really fit the mezuzah in there, which I do. He said, you can't fit the mezuzah in there? Move. So anyway, I mean, get a new pair of shoelaces. What can I say? No, I'm serious. Different shoelaces. Different shoelaces have different tensions to them. You know what I'm saying? So, although full disclosure that there are achronim that suggest that the whole chumrah of a double knot is only if it's actually tight. Meaning to say, if it's a double knot that is not tight, some achronim say you don't have to be choishish, because you see with your eyes that it's not tight. Nafkamina is, sometimes a woman will make a double knot at the end of her tichel, at the end of her shawl, because one knot just falls away, but they don't do it tight. They do it loose because they don't want it to be tight. They want to be able to take it out easily. So some of the achronim say that that's actually not forbidden, because when the whole reason about a double knot being forbidden is if it is tight, then it might be professional. But if it's loose, not.
If it means you don't relax, why not? Something, let's say, put a match. You really consider double knot? Just.
You mean because it doesn't?
The knot is not sitting one on top of the other.
The point is if it's tight or not. That's the main point. I don't think putting a match will help unless it keeps it from being tight. If yes, then maybe. So, actually, speaking of double knot, I'm not going in the order of my page at all. I'm just kind of going randomly from one thing to the other as it comes to my head. Speaking of double knot, a very serious problem on Shabbos, based on all of this, is tightening your tzitzis. I'm saying it's a very serious problem because tzitzis are a double knot. And I came across in the Dirshu that even those that say that a double knot is only a tight double knot, that tzitzis don't seem to be so tight, they come loose pretty easily. Nevertheless, because it's a maise uman, the whole getup of the tzitzis, you know what I'm saying? The whole thing of the tzitzis is a professional thing. It is professional. I mean, most people don't know how to do it. So it's considered to be part of a maise uman, and therefore it's asar. Even those that say that a loose one is okay would agree that this one is asar. So it would be a shaila of the araisa. Shaila of the araisa, based on the Shiltei Gebarim. So you have to be very careful when you're checking your tzitzis on Shabbos morning. Exactly. The Rebbe recommends that you hold it while you're checking. You hold it by the knots. And that'll stop you from actually tightening the knots. Speaking of checking your tzitzis, there is a machlokas achronim if you're allowed to untangle the tzitzis. Some say that you're allowed. I believe the Rebbe says that in the letter, and he brings in the Dirshu also from some of the Achronim, that it's not considered tikkun kli. Why? Very simple. Because the tzitzis are kosher even when they're tangled. Haraya, if you're late for minyan, you can put on your talis without checking it. On the other hand, some Achronim say no, because l'chatchila you are supposed to untangle them. So therefore untangling them is a tikkun kli. So therefore they say not to untangle them. So, different opinions. Okay, going back to the very concept of needing a permanent knot. Why does a knot have to be permanent? He brings the question in the Dirshu. When it comes to other malachas, we don't say it has to be permanent. We say it has to be strong. Let's say binyan. Binyan bekeda. It has to be uman, it has to be maise uman, professional, strong, tight. It doesn't have to be forever. Actually, let me take a step back. Forever is a very long time, right? It doesn't have to be forever. It has to be for the foreseeable future. Alter explains. When we say forever, it doesn't mean forever. It has to be that you're tying it from now until whenever. You have no plans to remove it. Maybe go remove it one day. Okay, fine. But for now, you want the knot. For now until whenever. The Maisa, I'm saying with that, or you're going to take it off in a certain time. You take your shoe off when you go to sleep. So that's not permanent. The point is, but we don't see this idea of permanence by other things. Planting, okay. If one day I decide to uproot my tree, even if I'm planning.
How about writing?
Sorry?
Writing,
yes. Writing, but it has to be the type of writing that's permanent. But it doesn't have to be that I'm planning to leave it there forever. If I'm planning to erase it later, that's still a malacha. You understand? It can't be disappearing ink. It can't be written on something that's going to wither up and disappear, because that's essentially not permanent. But if I make it, and even if I'm deciding when I write it that it's going to not be forever, it's still a malacha. Here, the same knot all depends on my mind. If I decide it's permanent, it's a deraisa. If not, not. So Shlomo Zalman explains that the difference is that really the whole idea of a knot being a malacha is really a chiddush, because you're not really creating anything besides a union between two things. When you cook, it's a change. You plant, it's a change. When you write, there's something new there. There's a letter. You build. There's something. The whole idea of the knot is that you're joining two things. It's not an essential new thing. It's the joint. What makes it the malacha is the joining. So if it's a proper joining, then it's a malacha. But if not, not. In other words, the joining is what makes it a malacha. It's not the concept of a knot. It's the fact that it's uniting things. So if it's a real unity, then it's a malacha, da'iraisa at least. If not, not. Okay. He brings down the deer shoe from Abnissen Karelitz. Yeah. Yeah.
Even one knot, some people say that you shouldn't do it.
I didn't come across that. I did not come across that opinion, because one knot is not a.
Because it's the same, it's one piece, like you're tying something on silk. So like you're trying to actually piece together, because it's one thing that does.
I didn't see that. What I did see.
Then it follows.
If you tie the two together like this, that's mutter because it's one knot. If you tie them together like this, you see that?
Yeah, this one, yeah.
That's usher. Just like it's also to make one knot at the end of one string. That one knot at the end of one string is tight. It never comes out, right? It's like two. It's basically the same as a double knot, even better, because there's no even friction separating it. So that's one of the knots that, according to Shulchan Aruch, you're not allowed to do, because it might be considered professional. So even when you take two together and you loop them around into a knot, that's also awesome. I didn't come across that. Even though it only comes apart if you pull it apart, you know what I'm saying? It's not like one knot of your shoes that comes apart very easily, but still it's only one knot. It's not professional. And not only is it not professional, actually, one knot you're allowed to do even if you want to leave it forever. Because one knot without a second knot to hold it in place is considered something that has no permanence, essentially. So that has a lot of relevance, actually. Let's say you use these to wrap up a baby's diaper, to throw it out so it shouldn't smell. If you make one knot, that's permanent. So you're throwing it out, it's going forever until, when the plastic bag decomposes in 2,000 years. So that's relevant, but as far as I know, it's mutter, because one knot you could make even forever, because it's not considered significant. Okay, a chiddush that I read.
And a bow is not considered a permanent knot ever, right?
No.
You can undo it with one hand.
Exactly. It's not because of that. It's just because it's not. It comes out easily.
Yeah.
The fact that you can undo it with one hand, by the way, is an opinion in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says any knot that you can undo with one hand is not cannot be d'oraisa. We don't paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. We don't paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. So that in and of itself is not enough to make it mutter. I mean, it might indicate that it's not professional. Actually, I take it back because we don't pass like Rabbi Yehuda, and the Rambam has to agree with that, and he says that a professional artist is chayev, even though he doesn't pass like Rabbi Yehuda. So I guess even a professional artist, it's possible to make one that could be undone with one hand. Hard to imagine, but yeah. Okay, a tefillin knot is permanent or not? Tefillin knot, the shel rosh. Let's say you want to practice. For practice, not for the mitzvah.
So this is not like untied every day. You could, but you don't.
Now you do loosen it and tighten it when you lend it to somebody, different head size, or even your own head, haircut or whatever changes a little bit. You loosen it, you tighten it. But Nissim Karelet says, no, Nissim Karelet says more than that. He says because the knot itself stays pretty much forever. Pretty much forever. Even though you change the size of it, but it's the same knot. You're just moving it up and down. That's considered kayam. That's considered permanent. So it's mamash d'oraisa, according to this.
What about maniva, tie? You're losing it just to take it off. But if you untie completely, you'll have to do not. Because usually most people just losing it and take it off. Some people untie it completely. So to the one that actually just losing it and putting it out, going to be considered special kayama?
So here's what he says in the Dirshu for a tie. Any tie that when you take it off your thing and you pull it through, there's no tie left, you know what I'm saying? Completely. That you're allowed to do as long as you're not going to leave it for more than 24 hours. That's definitely not a kasher uman. Definitely not a kasher uman. I'm saying, but if you can pull it apart just like that and it comes apart, but it's so easy to pull apart, then it's not a kasher uman. And then you can do it if it's less than 24 hours. As long as you're not planning to leave it for next Shabbos. You know what I'm saying? As long as you're planning to. If in general, here's the thing, when we talk about 7 days or 1 day or whatever, we don't mean if you happen to leave it once for 7 days. We mean that you usually leave it for more than a day, or you usually leave it more than 7 days. If you do, then you can't do it. So the point is, so the point is that he says if it's a knot that even when you pull it apart, it stays, you know what I'm saying? So then he says that's a shaila of a tight knot, like a knot that has one end, you know what I'm saying? Just like when you make one like that, it's considered a tight knot, and it could be professional, and you can't do it even for less than 24 hours. So if the tie is tied in such a way that when you pull it, it stays, that's considered a tight knot, and you cannot do it for even less than 24 hours. I'm saying, but you can't even make it for less than 24 hours. When you put on your tie and you take out the thin one, you take it out and completely, and then you pull it, are you left with a knot or not?
No, nothing.
Oh, so that's the one he says you can make for less than 24 hours. But there are some tie knots, the full Windsor, if you know what I'm talking about? Even after you pull out the other end and you pull it, you're left with a knot. He says that might be considered professional, and therefore you can't make it for even less than 24 hours. You have to make it before Shabbos. If that's your preferred tie style, you have to make it before Shabbos.
And you don't want to do it on Shabbos.
And you don't do it on Shabbos, that's correct.
If you just loosen it and put it back, loosen it and put it after Shabbos day.
That's for sure. That's for sure. That's not.
I'm sure you are.
That's okay. That's okay. However, full disclosure is that Rabbi Nissim Karelitz disagrees with Shlomo Zalman, and he says that even if the knot remains, he believes it's still not professional, and he lets you do it as long as it's not for 24 hours. So, a bit of a machlekes there. Okay. Now there's a chiddush. If you usually leave a knot in such a way that it is semi-permanent, which we're going to discuss in a minute if it's 1 day or 7 days, then you cannot make that knot even if you decide, oh, this time is different. This time I'm going to undo it. No. If your derech is to leave it, can't make it. Okay. What about a knot made by a child or made by somebody else who doesn't own the garment? Actually, let's go back one at a time. A knot made by a child, I'm on 5a. A knot made by a child, the Dirshu says, I believe it's from Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, that if the child plans to leave it, that's considered permanent because the child, even though he doesn't have a maisa, he has a maisa. He did the maisa of making a knot, and knots could be permanent. And since he wanted it to be permanent, it gets that getter. Oh, if a person makes a knot in somebody else's garment, so then it's not the pshat that you can't make somebody else's thing aser. Rather, Maharil Diskin says something else. He says that the point is your thought about it makes no difference. Because when the owner comes, he's going to do whatever he wants with the garment. You can think from today till tomorrow. If he wants the knot out, he's going to take it out. So therefore, it's not considered permanent knot unless the owner wants it. It's not up to the person who makes it. Okay. If a person... I'm sorry, one more time.
Two people do the double knot.
Yeah.
It can be done by one.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah.
Any malacha, it applies to any one of the 39 malachas. Okay. Two people makes it one step down. Makes it one step down. It can't be deraisa. Doesn't mean it's mutter, but maybe if it's an extra sniff anyway, machlokes, drabanan, tsar, +2. You know what I'm saying? Make up the case as you wish. Sorry?
In this case, there's what there would be.
Right, there could be. Okay, now here's a shaila. Let's say you have a knot that you're making and it's going to last forever, but you only need it for a certain amount of time. For example, you make a knot in a lulav ring. Make a lulav ring, right? The knot is going to last forever. You're never going to undo it. And when Sukkot is out, you're going to throw the lulav into your backyard or who knows where. I mean, maybe you'll burn it, but whatever. But you're never going to undo the knot. On the other hand, you have absolutely no use for the knot after Sukkot. Somebody comes in and does it, you don't care, one way or the other. Is that considered permanent or not? The Alter Rebbe, not here, but in Hilchos Lulav, says yes, that's considered permanent. Reb Shlomo Zalman, even though Reb Shlomo Zalman can't really argue on Alter Rebbe, but he must have other achronim that he brings in. When you make it is when we go by when you make it. When you make it. Saying when you make it, that's when it's relevant. After you made it already, whatever it is, it is. The point is, Shlomo Zalman, he must base it on the achronim, says, if you don't need it, even though it's still there, it's not considered important. And the nafka mina he brings is concerning stitches. When a surgeon makes stitches, so he has to make a knot at the end of the thread so the stitches won't come out. That knot never comes out. I mean, he'll pull the stitches out when it's healed, but he throws it out. He doesn't undo that knot. According to Shlomo Zalman, that's Darabanan, because he doesn't need it from that point on. And therefore, I mean, again, if it's a life-threatening situation, you can do it anyway. And if it's not, then maybe you can't do it anyway. But maybe in some situations, depending on the situation, we can be makel with a Darabanan. He considers that a Darabanan. So that's one point. Dissolving stitches, and this is a chiddush. Dissolving stitches, Rav Yashiv says, is do'iraisa, because as long as they exist, the knot is there. The knot dissolves with the stitches, but it's there as long as the stitch is there. As long as the thread exists in the world, the knot is there. So that's an interesting chiddush. Okay, let's move on. We said...
Does that mean that I can't tie a knot in, let's say, a Twizzler or something?
Oh, that's an interesting shaila.
Because kids do that all the time.
And then eat it.
Yep.
Piece of licorice, Twizzler. Tie a knot and then eat it. Ink Shir B'Eichlin. I just made that up. I didn't totally make it up, actually.
Well, what about when you eat cake which has letters on it? I mean, isn't that a problem?
When you eat cake that has letters on it, it's a machloikis. It's a machloikis, and it's in Siman Shin Mem 340. There's different opinions about it. But when it comes to a knot with food, actually, I didn't totally make it up, but I don't know if it talks about it concerning people food. It definitely talks about it concerning animals. I think it says there is no kosher by animal food. I think they just didn't have examples of knots that you could tie with people food, because they didn't have Twizzlers in those days. But they had straw, and you could tie a knot with straw, but it's also animal food. I'm pretty sure it says that there is no kshira with animal food. And maybe we can extend it to Twizzlers. I don't know. Where did I see it? I'm not finding it right now. Shira with Michael Behema. Lecture Gmi Yavish, because we're the last time I shall try to time it lecture Gmi Lach in which I'm in Lach Behema, and which also do this Yabish with his spoiler. Culture him came culture with the lecture that had Gmi Yavish Kvarko Ace. Okay, I have to look it up in the Shevet HaLevi. But he brings it that the mashmos of the Rambam is that there is no shira by animal food, but that the Chai Odom learns the pshat that it's not because it's food, but rather because it's going to dry up and not be and not remain connected. So if it's something
That doesn't hold for Twizzlers.
that pretty much don't dry up, so yeah, maybe it's usher. On the other hand, I don't know if everybody agrees with the pshat of the Chai Odom and the Rambam. Maybe some hold that it's because it's food, it's not a significant nut because people are going to eat it and that's going to be the end of it. So I don't know. Yeah.
It's double.
A gartel, yeah.
Double.
Yeah.
If it's one nut.
Yeah.
It's considered as double. It's double now. Just for
No.
not a problem.
No, it's not.
It's double.
No. Oh, that's one. Okay. We mentioned before this machlekes. What is the getter of a us or not? Rabbanan. Some say more than 1 day, and some say more than 7 days. And the Gemara brings this about the Talmidei Chachamim who would stay in their shoes 7 days, Friday to Friday, and depending on how you learn the pshat in that Gemara, it's either 1 or 7 days. About I honestly don't know how it's possible, because first of all, there's a question of mikvah. Even if they didn't go every day, Friday, I mean, at least to bathe, and then Friday night, presumably they went home with their wives. I mean, so it's less than 7 days. I'm saying, however, where you cut it, this Friday afternoon and this Friday night, so it's always less than 7 days. I didn't quite get the pshat in that, to tell you the truth. So, in any case, so now, Alter Rebbe adds a very important point here. When we talk about a day or 7 days, in order for it to be usher, the person's intent has to be, I'm going to be leaving it for more than a day. I'm going to be leaving it for more than 7 days. If he doesn't know exactly when he's going to take it off, sometimes a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later, but it's not definitely after a day, then it's mutter.
They will count 24 hours, or let's say
24 hours.
Or is like when the night.
No, 24 hours. 24 hours. Otherwise, let's say it's Shabbos afternoon, putting your shoes on, you're not going to take it off till night. It's not the same day. But we don't go by that. We go by 24 hours. Okay, so it's important to know, it doesn't have to be you're thinking exactly when I'm going to take it off and have a time in your head. It means you're planning to take it off sometime in the future, maybe even within 24 hours or 7 days, depending on the two opinions. The Maisa, in terms of this question, a knot that is there, and it's going to be more than 24 hours, but less than 7 days. Alter Rebbe says to be machmir. The Machaber, by the way, not the Machaber, the Akud Yosef says, by the way, Paskin's like the opinion of 7 days. But both the Alter Rebbe and the Mishnah Berurah say to be strict like 1 day. However, the Makam Tsar, the Alter Rebbe says you could be lenient with a knot that's more than 1 day through a goy, Mishnah Berurah says you could be lenient yourself. So that's a bit of a significant difference. All right? Now,
Can you be double nuts? Let's say
let's say what? Let's say what?
your animal.
Yeah.
You forgot, you double
I'm
nuts.
hogging these over myself. Please.
So you can go and eat. You allowed to?
If what, sorry?
You want to untie your animal to be tied, double nuts or something. You forgot.
I don't know. It's dangerous. It's
You
dangerous.
allowed to?
Pass it on to the other side.
That's what he meant, that was dangerous.
Except for tzar, of course, they're allowed. For tzar, by that time, you also be allowed.
I mean, l'chura, I would think yes, because sar b'lachaim is an isser, maybe even isser deraisa. It's machlokes in the Gemara. But I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay. Now, let's say it's a knot that most people leave for more than 24 hours, and he is planning to do it less than 24 hours. Mishnah Berurah said you have to be strict,
Like the majority.
like the majority. On the other hand,
Whereas your friends know what you do it, no?
no, it's a chiddush, but he says that. Then he says another chiddush.
Is there some more?
Yeah.
Falling like the size.
I don't know. I didn't learn the Rishonim when I was reviewing. I just learned the late Achronim. Another chiddush. If most people do it for less than 24 hours, but you want to do it for more, you also have to be machmer. We're machmer both sides. We're machmer if most people do it for longer, even if you're doing it for shorter. And we're machmer if you're doing it for longer, even if most people do it for shorter. Both sides is machmer. Okay. Actually, I see here I wrote it in the name of Mishnah Zalman. I thought I said in the Mishnah Berurah, the Bir Halacha maybe, but I have it here in the name of Mishnah Zalman. I have to look it up. Okay, when it comes to untying, all of the rules that we mentioned about tying apply to untying. It means according to the Rambam, in order for it to be Asar Deraisa, it has to be professional and permanent. According to Rashi and the Rosh, it has to be just professional. For it to be Asar Midrabanan, it has to be either for 7 or for 1 day. Or according to the Rambam, even if it's just professional, less than a day, it's also Asar Midrabanan. Same exact guidelines. Okay. I mentioned before that if you make a double knot that's loose, some say you can be makel and not consider it a suffix deraisa. It's not deraisa, it's not permanent, but I'm saying it's not considered a suffix derabanan because it is not tight. Now the Maisa says the Shulchan says, why take on that leniency? Why don't you just make something else, a knot with a bow or something, instead of 2 knots? Now, what about untying a double knot for a mitzvah? You have a Sefer Torah, and by mistake, they did the garter with a double knot. Mutter or not? Why? Mitzvah. Why since when can you do a mitzvah for an aveir for a mitzvah? You're right, I'm just asking for more information.
Because anyway, you're going to untie it like in 2 days.
Okay, so it's not the Raisa. Nobody says the Raisa.
Monday to Thursday.
No. Nobody says the Raisa. But why isn't it the Rabbanon?
It could be less than 7 days.
Yeah, but if it's a double knot, maybe it's a professional, and then even temporary is also.
It's not
We said double knot, maybe yeah. 1 second, double knot. We said maybe is kasher. We don't know, maybe.
By Shem Mitzvah, you can look for the place to build it.
Oh, it's more than that. More than that. The Gemara says that there are knots that are asur b'drabanan that you're allowed to make l'tzorich mitzvah. The example is that you're allowed to take the example of the Gemara is that they took a piece of pottery, which was the size of a tefach, and they tied it to a stick to be able to put it up to an opening that was in between 2 rooms to see if it was a tefach and if the tumah was going from one room to the other. And for some reason, they had to tie it professional to keep it in place. They were allowed for the sake of a mitzvah. Shomim? Now, again, the question is why? Since when do we allow a Sidra Rabbanan for a mitzvah? Yeah, the Chachamim sometimes said it's only a Sidra Rabbanan. We're allowing it. In other words, even the Rambam allows it. You were saying we can rely on the Rosh who says that a professional knot is no problem. But more than that. The Rambam himself says it's mutter. Because the Chachamim were mekel and allowed knots that are asur rabbanan to be done l'tzorech mitzvah. Okay, double mitzvah. Excuse me. Now, Velcro is definitely better. Velcro is definitely better. Velcro is better, or the clips, but it's better than the ties, because even when you have those the garters that you have to tie, even if you do a knot with a bow, it's a shaila on Shabbos afternoon. Actually, it's a shaila on Shabbos morning and Shabbos afternoon. Shabbos morning, it's a shaila to untie, because you're untying something that was from Thursday, from 2 days ago. Shabbos afternoon is a shaila to tie, because you're going to leave it till Monday. So it's definitely a shaila, and it's better if you can tie it without that, like maybe just tie once and tuck it in. I barely see it. Maybe very old Sfardim. That's true. Depends. Some Sfardim have a lying Sefer. The Moroccans, I think. No?
There's the Moroccans have the flat one.
Yeah.
The northern Morocco one. Well, yeah.
So anyway, Lamaisa, it's a shaila, but some are mekel because they say, after all, it's a mitzvah. Tie a sefer Torah, keep it tight, make sure it doesn't fall open, and it's only Rabbanan for sure. It's not professional, and it's less than 7 days, so it's only it's not even asur according to all opinions. So some say that it should be mutlat tzarech mitzvah, but like I said, if you can get away without doing it, it's certainly better. Okay, what about tying a third knot on top of a double knot? Oh, so some say it's asur because you're strengthening a malacha. Some say it's not asur because it's like ein bishul acha bishul. It's like mitstamek v'yafalei. Tastes better, but it's already cooked. So what are you going to do? It's not some say. Rav Zalman isn't sure about it. Okay. No, I think according to the tzad that you're allowed to make the triple knot, I think you'd be allowed to untie it. But the double knot, untying that is a serious problem.
So if one does untie the first one, and the second one untie the other one.
The second one does the issur.
Even so, there's another knot set.
No, one is
Not
nothing.
tied completely still.
One is nothing.
Yeah.
One is nothing. It comes out so easily. It's nothing. Okay. Double knot of tzitzis we said already. Now, let's say your tzitzis string is loose. You don't tighten it because it's Shabbos. Maybe it should be also to wear because you might forget and tighten it during the day. Chazon says it's okay. Because it's kosher without tightening, without kosher, you're going to tighten.
But you can tighten a little bit until it comes closer to the knot. It doesn't have the space.
I'm sorry?
You're allowed to bring a little closer to the knot. So not going to get off completely.
I think so, yeah. As long as you don't tighten it. Okay. Here I wrote a rabbinic knot for a mitzvah by a goy. A rabbinic knot for a mitzvah by a goy. What did I mean by that? But before we say you can do a knot, that's also Rabbanan for a mitzvah. What's the difference? Some help here. That's what happens. You write your notes and you don't even remember what you meant.
What year was this?
Oh, this is yesterday. Kashenik Shaka Yam Alam Sefrim, Mutala Koshel Sech Mitzvah, Kagoin, Shakosha Limdain Acham Shir Torah. Afilu Kasher Siyum and Mutaliksha Imi Yefsha Limdin Binyanachar. So he gives two examples, either a Kasher Uman or a Kasher that's not Kayama Midaraisa, but is Kayama Midaraban. So that pretty much covers all the Rabbanans. So I don't know what I meant when I said kasher, that's only us Rabbanan, you can do through a goy. We'll have to leave that as a kasha on my notes, and I'll let you know what I meant when I figure it out. Okay. Now, there is a case that you're allowed to do a kasher mid'araisa through a goy, and that is for mitzvah dirabim. You're generally not allowed to ask a goy to do any Isser D'Oraisa ever, even for a mitzvah. But for mitzvah dirabim, that's an exception. The example is an Eruv. If an Eruv breaks, you can have the goy tie the string, even if it's going to be permanent, until the next hurricane, and even if he does it professional, whatever, because it's a mitzvah for the public. It's not a private person's mitzvah. It's a mitzvah for the public. So that's the chiddush of the Chai Adam.
It's only in this malacha?
No. Any malacha, that's a mitzvah derabim. Not a.
Any Yisur D'Oraisa, if it's for the congregation, we'll have to ask them.
That's the goy, correct. Correct.
Without Shim.
Correct.
Without a representative.
Correct. Not a mitzvah for the congregation. Not just for the congregation.
Shul's lights are.
No.
You can see without the lights on.
No, because you can't benefit from when the goy puts lights on anyway, so what's the point of asking him to do it?
You benefiting there.
No, you're not. Mitzvahs. Oh, you mean you're going to be allowed to carry? That's not. That's an indirect benefit. You can't direct bodily benefit from what a goy does for you on Shabbos, because the Chamor made exer, you might. Just wondering. What does that mean? The Chacham made exer, you might tell him. You're allowed to tell him. I don't know. I have to think about it. But generally, you're not allowed to benefit bodily from the malachos that a guy does, because you might tell him to do it.
So the plata, they're gonna warm everything up for Kiddush. For the shul went out, you're not telling him clearly to plug it back in, that's even the thing. Because for the
I don't want to extend it to things that are kind of mitzvahs. You know what I'm saying? The whole thing is a chiddush. So I want to keep it, if it's a clear mitzvah, like not carrying a Shabbos. Whoa, that's a very serious mitzvah. You know what I'm saying? Eating the chalent, it's warm, it's not warm. You don't have chalent, you do have chalent. It's not so clear. Because the whole thing is a chiddush. I'm going to keep it, at least, unless I see otherwise. That has to be a mamish mitzvah.
any other examples of
I was going to say carrying a Sefer Torah, but I don't know if we'd let a goy carry a Sefer Torah. And in most cities, you don't really have a Siyum derais anyway, so I don't know. I cannot think of an example at this moment, but I'm pretty sure the poskim do bring down examples. Okay.
I think it's general, it's like any two pieces that you connect them together and they stay together, or it's have to be with a rope.
With a knot. It doesn't have to be a rope, it has to be a knot. It has to be a knot. If you connect them with Velcro, connect them with a clip.
With a chain and a lock, you're allowed to unlock it.
Yeah. Locking is not.
Two pieces.
Locking is not a knot. Locking is a lock, separate. I mean, you could make a knot with bendable wires. I mean, you can make a knot out of metal. If you have, you have twist ties, metal twist ties. You can make a knot, but it's not. But you know what I'm saying. But it has to be a knot.
So twisting, it's not a knot, but still we're not doing it.
That's more of a Shiloh Teufer. They say that's a Shiloh Teufer. But honestly, I didn't look into it this time, so leave for Shemem.
But it's not under time, it's just under top.
Exactly, they consider it Teufer. So we discussed a single knot is nothing. We discussed a double knot as a problem. A knot and a bow, that's an example of something that is not professional, but if you leave it forever, it would be an Issa D'Oraisa, according to the Rosh. And if you leave it for more than a day, it's an Issa D'Rabbanan, according to one opinion. And if you leave it for more than 7 days, it's definitely an Issa D'Rabbanan, according to all opinions. So, the Maisa, you cannot make a lulav knot, we said already. That knot stays there forever. But if you didn't make the rings, you could simply use the leaves, just wrap it around and tuck it in. Wrap it around and tuck it in. Or you could just make one. You can make one knot. And I'm saying one knot and tuck it in. Same thing as Sefer Torah.
We might have talked about it before, but what about trash bags you throw out?
One second.
If you tie it in a knot with a bow.
One from the beginning, Daniel. Sorry, what?
If you have a trash bag, you tie it with a bow knot and then throw it out. How is that?
You cannot do that because that's forever.
Uh-huh.
You can do one knot, which is not going to do much, but you can't do a knot with a bow on it.
for a trash bag?
Yep. That's going to last forever. Even if you say to yourself, oh, after Shabbos, I'm going to undo it and I'm going to do it again, that doesn't help. One knot, yeah, but not a knot in a bow. Even if you say I'm going to undo it, because usually that's the type of knot you leave forever.
So when do we, so anytime that we have a knot that's going to stay forever, even if I can take it out easily, it's something that we're not.
Correct. That's correct.
When you mentioned the ruler, so if you're doing one knot. Then you have the leftover, you bring over, you have to do another knot on the other side.
No, not allowed.
Why not?
Because the whole point that one knot is allowed is because
Not in the rule of an other island.
doesn't make a difference. The whole point of one knot is that it comes apart easily. Once you put a second knot, even on the other side, it's not going to come apart easily because there's something holding it in. Understand?
But it's not double knot.
I'm not saying it's double knot to be professional, but it's a single knot. So if you leave it for more than 24 hours, I'm saying, but it's a single knot that's going to last. Because you're putting a single knot on the other side, it's going to last. So you can't do it for more than 24 hours. If it's less than 24 hours, I think, yeah. I mean, the lulav is not like that, but I'm saying less than 24 hours, yeah. It's not professional, but it's not a single knot either.
Ready or close to done?
Sorry?
Are we anywhere near done?
Am I done?
Are we anywhere near done?
I thought we were, but we haven't.
What number are we on?
We're on 23. Now all we have to do is till 42. What do you think?
I was going to ask for a second.
This whole thing is a secret.
Yeah, sequel and sequel. If we're going to anyways have to continue it. I'd rather sequel. 5, 6 is not as good as sequel. We're going to do the 5, 6. Sequel and sequel.
Let's get to the end of this page, till 31, and then I'll do a sequel. Okay. A single knot, we said, is mutter because it comes out easily. You cannot add one knot to an existing single knot because that becomes professional.
You said 3 to 2 would be what?
Sometimes is not sure if that's like usher or if it's like Masechta we have a light. Now, here's a chiddush. Shabbos says, if you have a type of material that is rough, so that even one knot will hold in place, like for example, you have metal wire, because it's a tight thing, even one knot holds. Says you can't do it. The whole head of one knot is not like a halacha meshmesina exeres akasav. It's because it comes out easily. If it's a type of knot that doesn't come out easily, it's a problem. It might not be professional, but again, if it's more than 24 hours, it's going to be a problem. Okay, tying a tie. I'm sorry? Yeah. If it's a type that holds together, if friction holds it together, then yeah.
Maybe something like thin, like the, I don't know, we said the scissor streaks doesn't work.
One doesn't hold together. One is nothing. One knot on
This
this.
is the one string.
Oh no, that's going to hold. That's going to hold.
Right, so what are we talking about here?
No,
No, I know the metal ties, I get the metal tie thing, the whole, those twist tie things.
no. If you have a material that one knot holds, not at the end of it, two things that you tie together, but it holds it because it's a type of material that holds even one knot, like a metal wire would be a problem.
The twist ties.
Exactly. If you make a knot out of it. I'm not talking about twisting. Twisting, they say, is a separate shiloh. But I'm talking about if you would make a knot. Exactly. Tying a tie we discussed already. One knot at the end of the string we discussed. One of them, the two string we discussed. Knot at the end of two ends of the bag we discussed. Tied together.
One knot, then the two string goes
Not allowed. Like this. Like this. Because nothing's pulling it apart. You understand? What makes one knot come apart? Not sure if it's loose. Not sure if it's loose. We had the same shiloh. If you make a double knot loose, he said it's not clear. Same thing, not clear. At the end of a thick rope. Now here's a chiddush. At the end of a thick rope, Shlomo Zalman says a single knot doesn't hold because it's too thick. So it doesn't hold. So he says that's not going to be usher. Tying for a professional but temporary mitzvah, for example, we said that already. The Mishnah Berurah says Rashi disagrees with that heter. Tying a name tag on a new baby of Shlomo Zalman said is a mitzvah. So you shouldn't get the babies mixed up and then you'll get the wrong inheritance. It's a big problem. You could do it without a professional knot, I don't know, but an example that you need a professional knot, Shlomo Zalman says it's a mitzvah.
So if it's on two younger girls, then there's no point.
I'm sorry?
If it's on two younger girls, you can't do it.
Yes, that's true. That's true, but it might still be relevant to know in terms of marrying sisters and stuff like that. So it still has some relevance.
So if the younger boy and girl, you'd never need it anyway because they're boy and girl. Yeah, sorry, forget that.
Plus they have a mitzvah of kibbut av aim, different mitzvahs. Anyway, untying.
Are you allowed to tie
The what?
his mouth tight?
I don't know.
The mitzvah also.
Dead person is muktzah on Shabbos, you know that.
But you said the minimum thing that you're allowed to supposed to do.
On Shabbos? Like what?
Taking off the bed on the floor.
What? Who said? Who said? Shabbos? Mir Malacha. Who said?
Leave them on the floor.
Who said you're allowed to pick them
You
up?
have to take them off the bed, no?
On Shabbos? Lo shamati.
What else is it?
No, Shabbos and mess is muktzah. Very serious muktzah. You're allowed to move the mess with a kikar or a tinuk.
What does that mean?
Put a tinuk on him. Not my baby, but somebody else's baby.
What does it mean? A loaf of bread, does it mean a couple slices?
Yeah, anything.
Any type of
Yeah. Kikar, cookie, spice, anything. I don't think you're allowed to put the mess on the floor. During the week, yeah, but on Shabbos, I don't think so. I don't think you can tie him either. That meant I don't. If it says it somewhere, maybe, but I don't. As far as I know, it's not allowed. Okay, the Chazon Ish says untying this sort of knot is also allowed for a mitzvah. Meaning to say any knot you're allowed to tie for a mitzvah. If you need to untie it for a mitzvah, you can untie it. Meaning to say to untie the Sefer Torah. I mean, we already mentioned it, but just like you can tie those that say you can tie that knot if that's the gartel you have, because it's a mitzvah, so they would say you can untie also. Okay, putting in shoestrings is already a new discussion. We'll save for next time, but I do want to finish it up quickly. So next time, hopefully, we'll go through the rest of it in the beginning of this year. Yeah. Like a patish, different issues. A Siyum. Why didn't you make a Siyum?
We keep asking for a seat. I'm not asking for a seat because I know. Some things I know. This I don't.
All right. Any professional knot that is made to last until for the foreseeable future is an Issa D'Oraisa according to all opinions. Any professional knot that is not meant to last forever, but is going to last for a short time, let's say more than 7 days, is Asr for two reasons. First of all, it's professional. The Rambam says that that's Asr, and more than 7 days is Asr. A professional knot that is going to be for less than a day is only Asr according to the Rambam, who says that professional is Asr. But according to the Rosh, it's going to be Heter Gomer is going to be completely permissible. A knot that is permanent and that is not professional, according to the Rosh, is an Issa D'Oraisa. According to the Rambam, is an Issa D'Rabbanan. A knot that is not professional and is semi-permanent, which is defined as more than 7 days, or according to some opinions, more than 1 day, is an Isser D'Rabbanan. L'maisa, going back to the professional knots, we don't know exactly what is professional. The Shiltei Gebarim says you must be strict with any knots that are tight and they may be considered professional. An example is a double knot or a single knot on the end of one string. Not everybody agrees with Shelti Gebarim, but the Ramah does. However, even the Ramah and Ashkenazim will be lenient in a case of tsar to remove a double knot, because it could be that it's not professional, and even if it is professional, the Rosh holds that professional knots that are temporary are no problem. Any knot that is forbidden to make is forbidden to untie. If it's an Issa D'Oraisa to make, it's an Issa D'Rabbanan to untie. If it's an Issa D'Rabbanan to make, it's an Issa D'Rabbanan to untie. Any knot that is... No. Issa D'Oraisa to tie, Issa D'Oraisa to untie. Sorry, Issa D'Rabbanan to tie, Issa D'Rabbanan to untie. In terms of the opinions we said about 7 or 1 day, the halacha for a Sfardim Amekel, like 7 days. Ashkenazim are machmer, like 1 day, unless it is a makam tsar. The Alter Rebbe says you should do it with a goy. The Mishnah Berurah says you can do it yourself. In terms of a mitzvah, if it's a rabbinic level knot, because it is only professional but not permanent, or only semi-permanent, and you need to do this particular knot for a mitzvah, it is mutter. I think that's pretty much all I have to say. And the examples are all in the paper and in the larger recording. All right, my friends, thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much.
See you next week in Mitzvah
Thank you very much, and good night.
My pleasure. Good night to you.
All right, also.